Antifa declared officially a terrorist organization last month. I didn't know about this until the other day. And when I saw that, some things clicked. For starters, you don't renovate the White House if you're planning on leaving. Like, really think about that. A golden ballroom. For, I think, 6 years now, however long it's been since the first time he ran, I've been warning that they were setting him up to be a sort of faux dictator, right? The puppet figurehead of a totalitarian technocrat state. And here we are, right? So, that's a problem, I guess. But the Antifa thing, the reason it really rang alarm bells is because of the Patriot Act. A lot of you guys are probably too young to even remember that. I mean, I don't know if it's something people still think about. But it is a terrifying piece of legislation, and it basically dismantles civil rights in the United States. You can be arrested without cause, basically, held without trial, no lawyer, no phone call. Basically, you just disappear. And if Antifa, which is not an organization, not an official organization, there's no leader, there's no headquarters, there are no offices. It's not. I can't believe we only have one person. Maybe I should have called this stream something else. We'll talk about it more next week. But yeah. So labeling this sort of amorphous blob of general, it's like a generality that they have declared a terrorist organization. And the real objective of it is that if you are a left-leaning person, they could call you Antifa. Therefore, you are now arrestable under the Patriot Act. And so anyone that sends, say, $5 for gas to their friend who has been labeled Antifa is now supporting terrorism and is arrestable under the Patriot Act, right? I could go on and on. You guys get the picture. This is a way to not just demonize, but to criminalize an entire demographic of people that might represent some sort of opposition. This is real. It is this bad. We really have gotten to this point. They're not kidding. They're doing this deliberately. And it's time to take whatever kind of action we can take. This is not a time to rest on your laurels. We are at a crossroads in human history that represents the greatest potential ever in human history and also the gravest existential threat. We have all of the answers to optimizing human systems and bringing ourselves back into homeostasis with nature and each other. We know how to do this. The only reason it's not happening is that it doesn't serve the purposes of certain people. That's it. And it's a very small group of people. But they have a tremendous amount of power and a tremendous amount of resources. They're also acting from a level of blind animal instinct, fundamentally. Subconscious processes. They are automata. They're not engaged with any kind of higher processes. And physics, luckily, gives us a bit of an advantage due to that. And I'm not going to get too deeply into that in the stream. You guys know I talk about that stuff all the time. A little bit of audio crunchiness. Hold on, oh yeah, the volume's too high. There we go. That should be better? Yeah, that'll be better. Hopefully not too quiet. Here, let me push this one up a little bit. And yeah, you guys, this awakening also that I have been promoting all these years on this channel is definitely in full swing. I saw a video last night, a girl, high IQ, advanced pattern recognition, describing the fractal algorithm that underlies everything and all, It sounded just like me. And there's a lot of people that are suddenly talking about the exact same shit all over the place. So that whole, aspect of this, entrainment and entanglement of consciousness. It's definitely happening. I have absolutely no doubt about that. But we need to pull a little harder on the strings of our martyr, you know, and we also need to quit with the denial. It's very difficult to accept something of this magnitude, that we're really in this much trouble, but we really, really are. We really, really are. You know, this is all strategic. They have been conditioning the United States military to be prepared to attack American citizens. They have been conditioning people to get used to people just disappearing from concentration camps. You know, like, none of this stuff is accidental. They're also testing the waters. They wanted to see if they had 1,200 people or whatever disappear from Alligator Alcatraz, what kind of response it would be, and it was like nothing. People are like, oh well, you know. I mean, I shouldn't say that, because I guess King's Protest Day, I'm not there in the United States. I don't really know what's happening. I could be completely wrong, too, because the algorithm, who knows what, if it's showing me, you know, incomplete picture. I would expect that, of course. But you guys know what I'm saying. Like, this is something we were all expecting, like, way back in the early 2000s, but I think a lot of people grew up and forgot about it, you know, and even I was in a considerable amount of denial about it, I think, because, you know, nobody wanted to get to this point. But we're here. Somebody is in control of the United States, and it is not the United States. It's being exploited and drained for everything that it has got, and that includes the people inside of it. And I don't think they're going to stop until there's nothing left, unless something happens, you know. If you guys haven't seen my fractal algorithm videos, you should watch those, because I'm making a very good case for the fact that we very easily could optimize human systems to support, like, life on this planet as it should be, with the right kind of objectives. This dry, sterile, vapid consumer culture that we have is definitely deliberately engineered. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it doesn't need to be that way. Our culture could be colorful and vibrant and alive and engaging and purposeful, you know? And the fact that it's not is an engineered circumstance. At this point, you can ask any AI platform about the suppression of gnosis around the planet historically, and they all agree that it has happened for the purpose of undermining individual sovereignty and suppressing free thought. You know, it's no secret. It really is true that there is, like, a fundamental, or a sort of organic consciousness state that is our birthright that we have been disenfranchised of. And it's not that hard to bring it back, because there are all these influences in our environment that are constantly exerting influence that would bring us into that homeostasis if it wasn't for the fucking dickheads shaking the ant farm. You know? So, I mean, my main purpose for coming on here and talking about this tonight isn't really to go into depth about anything. I am trying to sound a dire reveille, to be or not to be, you know. But really to sound a warning and just make sure you guys know, like, what you're dealing with up there. And what I'm dealing with too, you know. I mean, confronting it has cost me, and it could get worse, you know. I'm not going to stop. So support the channel, please, for fuck's sake. Shit's stressful sometimes, man. All the time, really, at this point. You know? But remember the formula. All the way down at the most fundamental subquantum level, mirror symmetry, Calabi-Yau manifolds and D-brains, you know, juxtaposing opposites in order to create order with symmetry, but they're reversed, so it's breaking symmetry, which allows for variation, right? So at the most fundamental level, We have this dualistic dance going on. And because the whole process is generated by this reflective mechanism, it's reflective at all levels. You know, you see DNA copying, expanding, you know, the Fibonacci sequence, it's all just this hall of mirrors, like replicating by recursive fractal processes, right? So at the societal level, it's the same thing. There is no getting around having a moment that is pregnant with potential that is not equally balanced with existential threat. That's the formula. But we have to remember is that if you look at all the processes in nature, the general consequence of this interplay of antinomies is life. You know, the creative principle emerges from that victorious time and time and time again. So based on that, we can probably put our boots in the ring and, you know, feel good about it. That ultimately the outcome is generally in favor of the light. You know, in fact, if you look at the as above, so below model and take a cue from that, if Penrose is correct and the Kabbalah is correct, it began as light, it will end as light. That means the light always wins. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, nothing but light. So even in the darkest of times, we align ourselves with that light. All else is illusion, and truth is self-substantiating and self-replicating. And so, you know, we're playing our advantage. Prepare for the worst, hope for the, or wait, what is it? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and the rest is written. They're going to treat us like we're forbidden because we're all looking for the shit that's hidden. I can't remember the rest. Yeah, all right. So we have 15 people here. So I'm going to recap what I said in the beginning because it's really important. So first of all, you don't renovate the White House if you're planning on leaving. Just let that sink in. Second of all, we didn't get into Mr. Kirk, and I hesitate to do that because I'm shadow banned enough, you know, and my streams keep dropping when I talk about the right stuff, in my opinion. And then when they're reposted, those segments are missing. Isn't that cute? All right, so, okay, the Antifa thing. Antifa is not a real organization. There's no headquarters, no leader. It's a movement, and it's probably mostly a black flag operation. You know, they're agent provocateurs similar to COINTELPRO, what they did in the 60s. You know, it's their agents that are smashing windows. And, you know, January 6th was full of feds. So is Antifa. You know, don't be naive. There's no good side and no bad side. They're playing both sides. I mean, that's what you do if you're a diabolical fucking genius, you know? Don't be silly, people. So this making a movement that's not even a real organization, an official terrorist organization, means that they're all prosecutable under the Patriot Act, which means you have no rights. You can just be taken away, no trial, no phone call, no one knows what happened to you, just gone. Anyone that's labeled Antifa, if you associate with them, you also are involved in terrorism. So this is a way to just remove a whole demographic that represents potential opposition legally, right? And they have been conditioning people for it. The military, preparing them to attack American soldiers, the people going missing from the concentration camp, the Alligator Alcatraz, you know what I mean? They wanted to see what the response would be if like 1,200 people just disappeared and Americans were kind of like, you know, at least that's how it looks to me. I don't know what the algorithm, you know, if it's really showing me the whole picture or not, but definitely not the kind of response that you would think that there should be, basically, to 1,200 people just vanishing off the face of the planet. So, you know, like that's the point of this stream, really, is that that's where we're at. And they're not kidding. So it's really time to unify and make sure that we are loud and proud, weapons out, belly in, and I don't mean the weapon literally algorithm. I mean, figuratively, allegorically, of course. But yeah, this is the moment. And so let's talk real quick about Kirk now that I've said that and they haven't shut me down yet. This little revelation that occurred the other day. By the way, please support the channel, hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron. We're demonetized, and I probably risk my ass telling people shit like this at this point. You know, I really feel like I do. And it would be awesome if you would support me so I could continue to do that, at least for the time being. But yeah, the Kirk thing. So I don't know that this is 100% true. I've just seen videos, algorithms, so this is just based on what I've seen. Apparently, they got a picture of the guy that was supposedly the shooter on the ground at the time. So it wasn't him. He was definitely framed, if that's the case. And the judge issued a gag order for all 3,000 witnesses. So basically, it looks like they've been caught. You know, whatever they were doing there. And one of the things that the main thing that I want to point out about this is that people have got to stop with the binary thinking and falling into these traps, man, because it serves purposes on both sides of the aisle. Speaking of them playing both sides, you know, they had the left going, see, gun control, we need to take all the guns away from everyone. And it stirred the right up in all the ways that they have been trying to for the last couple of years really intensely, right? So when you see them pulling these black flag psyops that serve both sides of the aisle, both of their, freedom destroying surveillance state fucking agenda shit, when it pushes both sides of it, then that should be a clue. This is not a war between two parties. This is the elites against everyone else. They are farming, basically, the human population. This is always how elites have thought about it. I can show you, well, I just read it the other day. I'm not going to read it again. But you can find elites basically describing manipulating society as if it's an energy system. Thinking about it in terms of like geometry and optimized flows and they're so far beyond the perception that the average person has of what a politician is and what they do. The people that we see are literally just puppets playing roles, and they know they're playing roles. They know it's complete nonsense. Donald Trump is acting. He's an actor. He was literally an actor. Ronald Reagan was also an actor. Schwarzenegger is an actor. You know what I mean? They're actors. Sometimes they're literally actors from Hollywood that they use to play these roles. I can't believe people still believe in it at all. I really can't. It's mind-numbingly dumb. It really is. And then when you think about the minds and the technology that are really seated at the top of the rock, and you think they're going to let like some bumbling idiot take the reins and decide the fate of their fortunes and empires, it's goofy, man. There's no way that they would allow democracy. The only way democracy should be allowed is if you have a bunch of like highly educated, illuminated, rational people, and they have deliberately cultivated a society that is not that. If they wanted it to be that, it would easily be that. I could design it. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. We have the optimized versions of the systems that are in place in the U.S. already on the table. We even have like use case evidence, nations are doing it. The propaganda about China, man, I saw some videos from people that have recently moved there, and they're like, you guys, nothing you've ever heard is true. you know. And it's also true. You can look up like the Google some anti-China sounding stuff, and then look at who the sponsors are. It's the Defense Department. It's the CIA's NGO. I can't remember what it's called, but you know what I mean. It's the Department of Defense. You can literally just check and find out that things are propaganda. People just don't. Escape from the matrix, at least intellectually, is within any person's reach. The truth is hidden from no one. Oh yeah, look at who you can't criticize. Man, we keep getting more and more people on here, and I keep wanting to go back and repeat the fact that Antifa, which is not a real organization, being labeled a terrorist organization makes them Patriot actable, which makes anyone that sends them money on PayPal or associates with them in any way, shape, or form also arrestable under the Patriot Act. People are getting conditioned to accept people disappearing from concentration camps. The military is being prepped to attack American citizens. Donald Trump is renovating the White House as if he's not expecting to move out anytime soon or ever, whatever, I mean, all the signs are there, you guys. Like signs, symbols, hints, clues, writings on the wall. Rest is up to you. You got to act like dilated peoples, not just dilated pupils. Dilated peoples. And as far as like actionable advice, the only thing I can really think to do is to come up with optimized system solutions and get loud about it. Get loud about it, I'll do the work. It'd probably be a good thing if there was somebody a little bit more presentable than me to take care of that end of things. So I'm down to collaborate with anybody that wants to try to figure this thing out. It's worth it, I have a 6-year-old son who's going to be in a couple of weeks. So, I would like to see him live a life with the kind of support that I could never dream of, and that's available to people right now. Just this system that I came up with to run this fractal algorithm based on the golden ratio and AI that would unbias itself and if I can do that, I can't even imagine what people more educated in those kind of fields are capable of. Engineering, and it sounds like a crazy thing, but the more I've looked into it, the technology is being developed, like all the stage is being set to truly optimize human existence. And we just have some sort of outdated modalities of being that are obstructing our evolutionary process, and it's unacceptable at this point. It's terminal if we don't bucket the fuck down, Loud and proud. Weapon out, belly in, just speaking figuratively algorithm. All right, so if you guys have any questions, comments, or any other kind of input, by the way, Jesus wasn't even political. He wasn't even real. He was just a tool of oppression that was designed by the Roman consulate, basically, or the Romans, in order to suppress the evolution of human consciousness. Really, it's a weapon. That Jesus just preached a little bit of morality, that love your neighbor as you would love yourself is the most important thing that anyone could ever understand. But the reality is, my son was born knowing that. You don't, unless you live in a society that is deliberately being engineered to sustain maximum cognitive dissonance, then this kind of thing doesn't really even need to be taught. It's actually dictated by the algorithms of nature. All biological systems tend towards homeostasis, and that includes human societies, So That's not all Christianity is a distortion and a perversion of Hermeticism and the older traditions of gnosis, real knowledge. It's not. There's nothing good about it. It doesn't matter if it teaches a little bit of morality. Think about the mentality that's actually spread by teaching people that it makes sense that someone else suffers for your sins. You know what I mean? So now you can stand on the backs of brown people while they pick vegetables at machine gun point so you can have a, middle class life. That's really what they're doing. They're inculcating in you being a piece of shit under the guise of, taking the higher ground and being moral. It's a trick. It's a psychological trick, and it's dirty as fuck, and it's ugly as hell, and we need to abolish all religions from the face of the earth. The reality is that yours internal and, well, it's not internal. Your dialogue with the universal mind is the only thing that can inform you of anything. Nothing else is knowledge. There is no choosing some scriptural dogma and adhering to it out of a sense of duty that's going to do anything. It's all about catalyzing internal processes that are real, and that will lead to spiritual investitures and transformation. By the way, we have space shuttle retreats in January through, not really sure through when exactly. I don't know when we'll stop because we're going to keep it going, I think, for the majority of the summer. So shoot me an email if you're interested in that. I think we're almost out of time in the Sacred Valley, maybe a couple more weeks if you wanted to come for a week or something. It's really awesome here too. So there's that. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, and we're demonetized, so we really do appreciate support. What else is there, you guys? Let me check out the chat. No leader's going to do anything, and the reality is that no system, no matter how unbiased and optimized it is going to really do it without changing the consciousness of the people. And part of the problem with that is that change doesn't actually really come from within for everyone. It's actually pretty rare. Change comes from their reflection of their environment. That's actually how biological organisms function. So it does require some re-engineering and restructuring in order to get the kind of massive response that we need. Entrainment and entanglement do give us the ability to move consciousness just by moving our own consciousness. That's a real, scientifically verified fact at this point. But I don't know if it's enough. So walk it like you talk it. You know what I mean? That's really the fundamental thing here, is that we have to be the light you wish to see in the world, I guess is a perfect way to say that. Because there's a whole lot of reflectors, Most people, like the human design system, my partner does body chart analysis for people. It describes, the ratio of generators to projectors, and it seems to me to be really, really accurate. But the overwhelming majority of people are generators, which are highly reflective, right? That's why we have the mainstream, and that's why they feed the mainstream all of this vapid, boring, bland, purposelessness, and because that's how they keep them sort of malleable and manipulatable. I don't know if that's a word, but you guys know what I mean. So, we have to reflect. And one of the most, I guess, efficacious ways that we can start to do that is to forget about politesse. Fuck that. Don't mince words. Do not dance around people's feelings. Don't worry about offending people. Tell the fucking truth. You don't have to be mean about it. In some cases, you probably should be, though. If an idea is dumb enough, if somebody's really that, out to lunch, you know what I mean? I don't really feel that we even have to humor them at this point. We don't have time for that shit, You need to be radiating truth at every moment and not making any kind of concessions at all, no matter what, period. You know, we don't have a choice at this point. And really, I mean, that's kind of blasphemy to do it anyways. It doesn't matter what the reason is, you know? Like, oh, it's my family, I have to. No, you don't. No, you don't. They have to. If you are in the right, if you are in homeostasis with your being and the collective goal state, you know what I mean? Then they need to correct themselves. You don't need to you know what I mean? Not at all. And in fact, every time you do, you're doing damage to yourself. You know what I mean? You can't put on the mask. You can't fluctuate in your being. You have to just be rock solid, what you are all the time. And why wouldn't you want to do that anyways? You know, you're not going to regret it. The static, if you get static and those people go away from you, then guess who benefited? You did. They lost. You know what I mean? Just let it be like, you know what I mean? Let it be what it is. What it is, what it got to be. Ain't no stopping me. Hitler and the Nazis could not be ignored. There's a new Hitler in town. Well, you know, that whole subject is very complicated, and I don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean? So, if you guys have any questions or comments for me, please plop them in the chat. I've pretty much said all I have to say about this, I think. You know, what else is there to say? Truth is light. Light is love. It is that love that lights the stars above. You know, act like you know. That's the formula. We are all avatars of the fire and the light, born of the sun, yet creatures of the night, burning up our shadows to illuminate our names, leaving no doubt about the nature of this game. But will we find the higher mind in time? The hour has grown late, and you can't take your demons with you, crashing heaven's gate. Trust me. All right, I'm checking in with the chat one more time, and then if I don't see anything, I'm finna bounce. Society is a collective. All right, guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Please sound the dire reveille. Stay the reading of our swan song and epilogue. So what do I suggest to do? I suggest what to do all the time on this channel. You can watch any one of my 1,492 videos for more advice on what the fuck to do, especially the last like 3 or 4 on the fact that we can optimize our social, economic, and political systems with algorithms, and we can actually make them like self-balancing. Anyways, I'm not going to get into it all. I've already spent hours on those videos, you know what I mean? But yeah, and you know, you can also look around the world and you can see that the top 10 countries by metrics of happiness, education, and healthcare have the same systems in place. So why aren't those universally adapted if they're the best thing for the people? You know what I mean? And don't talk to me about scaling, because we can use Fibonacci-based algorithms to scale it and actually make these systems react and adjust in real time at this point. So, you know, the solutions are easy and they're readily available. You can work it all out with AI yourself. And when you do that, you realize how much dissonance there is in the minds of people, because anyone with a reasonably functional cognitive apparatus and access to AI could actually figure out how badly humanity is getting fucked and offer fucking workable, applicable, you know, I'm missing the word here, but you know what I mean? How do you call it? Into whatever. There's shit you can do, and there are machines that can tell us how to do it, you know? And these systems have been demonstrated to actually work already. So there's no excuse at this point beyond corruption, lies, distortions, and fucking unholiness. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you Saturday.